Fancy. Okay, awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and dive in. Let me make sure. Okay, cool. So let's dive into the content. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. I have a ton of stuff that I want to share with you today. We're going to go through a lot. So hoping to keep this to, my goal is 45 minutes with some time for questions. Might go to an hour. If it's longer, I promise you it'll be worth it. And feel free, like if you need to hop off at any time, especially if you're live, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we'll just kind of jump in. Let me present here. Okay. Can you see that okay, Sue? Perfect. Okay. Okay, and I cannot see the chat right now. So go ahead, if you do have questions in between, especially if you're live, go ahead and drop those in the chat box. I'll come back to those at the end. We'll do more Q&A. I'll answer questions, good Lord, and go through some more stuff at the end there. In the meantime, I'm going to dive into the slides. I'm going to be sharing my screen with some different systems and tools and things that I use to kind of show you some of the ins and outs. I will say some of the things I'm showing you directly in the tool. Some of the things I'm going to more explain or show you on a slide just because some of it is sensitive information, has client details, things like that. So of course, I'm not going to share those kinds of things, but I do really want to give you a behind the scenes look on basically how I do things. So this masterclass specifically is all about being multi-passionate. I feel like there are a couple people, a few people that kind of reference being multi-passionate, maybe multifaceted, kind of some different terminologies there. I still meet people who have never heard the term multi-passionate before, but really truly resonate with it as soon as they hear it, which I always love that I can kind of introduce that to them. But this is something that I not only talk about a lot, but live and am really talking about this more and more. Because mostly, and I'm going to kind of get into a lot of this detail, but mostly because typically what I have experienced, as well as many of my other multi-passionate clients, is you are going to run into, if you haven't already, a lot of people, coaches, mentors, trainers, different business owners, people that are going to tell you that you need to choose one thing. And that's just so common. Believe me, I was told that many times. And for a while, a handful of years ago now, I listened and tried to just like kind of niche down or choose one thing or try to combine a whole bunch of different passions into one business, which also doesn't work. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But it's really, really difficult for us multi-passionate people to hear that and feel like we have to do that because that's the only way, quote unquote, to be successful. And this masterclass is all about how not only did I not just choose one thing, but which is basically where my #WatchMe brand comes in, being able to be multi-passionate, find a way to do all of the things that you want to do and be successful in your own way, in the own way that you define success, and really go against the grain to #watch me do it anyway. So that is the mindset I kind of want to start you off with this masterclass today, is this idea of if you've been told to niche down, to choose one thing, that you couldn't do multiple things and be successful, this is your call to #watch me. I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to actually show you 5 key areas how to do this and really help you be multi-passionate successful. We have a couple people joining, so I'm trying to keep up with that as we go. Awesome. Okay, so let's jump into the masterclass itself. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about some different things. First of all, you're definitely going to get a behind the scenes look into how I manage multiple businesses. If you are new to me, don't worry, I'm going to kind of explain everything that I do, let alone manage my little family and time off for myself and still be able to travel and do other things. It's not just working 24/7 to do everything that I do, which I feel like is always a topic that I get, whether it has been on other podcast interview episodes that I've done or my own podcast that I share. really a behind the scenes look on how I do it all. So I'm going to show you lots of details there so that you can take a lot of those tips away and do it yourself. I am going to give you an inside look to my income, which I know is very interesting, especially as a multi-passionate. This is very, very different than you've probably seen from any other coach, consultant, service provider, business. A lot of the times we will set, there's people who will help you or teach you how to set, especially money goals. And being multi-passionate and having money goals looks very, very different. So we're going to dive a lot into the nitty-gritty of the money side of it. And I'm going to show you really what it looks like, which I'm really excited to talk about because that's something I've never shared before. And I love talking about money, especially as a multi-passionate for so many reasons. And as a part of all of that, the 5 key areas to really thrive as a multi-passionate. And of course, the one thing that most coaches won't tell you, which I've kind of already shared that, but we're going to get to it at the end. So let's see here. Okay. So why you're here. Welcome. First of all, I'm always excited to connect with more multi-passionate souls. There are definitely so many more of us than we probably give ourselves credit for, because typically we are hiding. We're kind of lurking in audiences or groups, collectives, communities of other people, mentors, coaches, different things that maybe are training you on either specific things. Maybe you're really diving into your own like business and marketing and strategy. Maybe you're diving into your own personal development. Maybe you're using other tools like I'm going to be talking about, like human design or some personality types. There's so many different things that you can learn. And a lot of us tend to kind of get caught into a lot of different groups because we're interested in multiple things. However, not many of us are able to come together collectively as multi-passionates to really share that like-mindedness that we all have being multi-passionate, to really help and share what's going on or hold each other accountable or give each other ideas or feedback or things like that. Really have that like-minded community of other multi-passionates. So that's a huge reason why I wanted to share this masterclass today. I'm also going to be sharing more, something that I have been working on to bring more multi-passionates together. So really excited to share that. So of course, you're probably here because you're multi-passionate. Some things that I have run into, and a lot of my clients have run into too. People definitely tell you to choose one thing because there's this, not everyone works the way that multi-passionates do. Most people do not work the way that multi-passionates do. A lot of times people do need to focus on just one main thing in order to be successful at that. And that is 100% okay, but that doesn't have to be you. So if you felt like you've had to choose one thing, but it doesn't feel good, or maybe you've tried that for a while, you are in the perfect spot because that was 100% me. A lot of my clients, majority of them, are multi-passionate in some way, shape, or form. Just to give you a little bit of definition around this, because being multi-passionate, I believe, doesn't need to, you don't have to have 3+ businesses or multiple businesses like I do. Being multi-passionate could look like having a business while having a day job, while having a family, while having other hobbies and time off that you also enjoy. That very much is managing multiple things, and you definitely fit the bill, right? Even if it's just managing a family and a business or a job and just other hobbies or other things that you like to do. I'm going to get into a little bit about what it looks like, especially if you're just getting started. Maybe you have a business, maybe you don't have a business yet, but you are exploring some of these multi-passions and wondering which ones to monetize or potentially turn into a business. If you didn't get my additional resource that I have of monetizing your multi-passions and helping you decide which ones to do, let me know, because that went out in an extra email as a part of, if you got registered for this masterclass, you should have gotten that. If you didn't, let me know. I'm happy to send that to you. We're not going to dive into all of that today. It's more behind the scenes today, but definitely something I love to talk about. Okay, you've probably jumped from thing to thing with little to no success. We usually hear about this as being maybe flaky or, always jumping from thing to thing, or kind of like the flavor of the week, so to say. You like to try on many things, and that's okay. And whether you stick with them and, continue to build them into a business or just as a passion, or you just want to try things on, there's nothing wrong with that. The goal, of course, is to help you understand yourself so that you are not making yourself wrong for jumping from thing to thing, and understanding your mindset behind it of why are you jumping from thing to thing? Is it because of fears, self-doubts, imposter syndrome, things like that may be holding you back, repeating patterns? Or is it, you're just really not interested in that thing anymore, and that's okay. A lot of that comes from understanding yourself at a very deeper level. So we're going to get into some of that. This is a big one that we're going to dive into a little bit today, is not sure how to market everything to be successful, especially if you do have one or two or more businesses specifically. How are you supposed to market different things and not confuse your audience and be successful? So we're going to dive into that today. What about you just don't know where to start, or you don't know where to focus your time and energy, especially that's going to move the needle forward? We're going to talk a lot about that today. Feeling overwhelmed with all of the things that you need and or want to do. This is so true. And one of the biggest things that I love to talk about is this idea of overwhelm, because as a multi-passionate, you are going to experience overwhelm, and that's okay. The goal is not to avoid overwhelm, but rather how to understand yourself and your own needs and how you manage different things, which again, all of these things we're going to dive into today, so that you have the tools to get out of that overwhelm and still move forward instead of just staying stuck and feeling overwhelmed and not knowing what to do next. Same idea of feeling unclear or scattered when you really need that clarity and direction to move forward. A lot of the times you might wonder if you are really good enough to make this happen. Having that self-doubt and imposter syndrome, this can come up in so many ways. And let me just add, this comes up for everyone, not just multi-passionates, but I find that especially as multi-passionates, because you have many areas or many different things that you're doing, this might come up in many different ways and a lot more. So this is nothing new, and it's okay to feel that. Definitely a good reason why you're here today. You might also just wonder, like, what am I doing wrong, or what's wrong with me? I've had this a lot, especially with my multi-passionate clients, wondering, like, why can't I just do one thing? It would be easier, right? Like if I just chose one thing, like, wouldn't it just be easier? What's wrong with me? Why can't I just do that? Believe me, that has been my own thought many, many times. I always make the joke that if I wanted to choose one thing, I would have just stayed at my day job and would have been fine, but that just wasn't making me happy. And there were so many things that I knew I wanted to do, especially outside of my day job and leaving my day job at the time, that was way more fulfilling. And knowing that I could get that fulfillment and really that version of my own success that I wanted from jumping and doing those things, making the leap, even though it was scary, even though I thought, what's wrong with me, or having some of that imposter syndrome came up, doing it anyway, because that was going to make me happy. So that's a little bit of where I started. Let's get into a little bit of my story. So again, if you're new to me, kind of in a nutshell, basically I've gone from making only $520 my first year in business, which was about 6 months, but still, I always say first year in business, really just struggling with not feeling good enough. I was going to business school, but I was just like dipping my toe into this idea of having a business for the first time and really learning by trial and error. And there were so many people that were trying to help me and teach me things and courses and different things that I was doing, which was helpful. But there were so many people that told me I needed to choose one thing. And that was really hard and really frustrating, because I always kind of felt like the the black sheep, or like the odd one out, right? Like I was always just didn't feel like I fit in anywhere, because there were other people who, chose their one thing and just focused on that and like had what looked to be overnight success. And it was always that, like, why wasn't it happening for me? Again, this happens to a lot of people, but especially for us multi-passionates, I knew that it wasn't just about the one thing I wanted to do. There were so many other things that I had interests in or other things that I wanted to get into and or out of, being my like day job and some of the scheduling at the time. Long story short, I share a lot more of this. If you guys are really interested in my story, especially as a multi-passionate, I really encourage you to go to my podcast, where episode 1, where I share all about my story, that's like an hour long of just my story, just sharing that. So if you're interested in like all of the details of how it happened, how I left my day job, kind of some of the things that happened in order for me to do that, highly encourage you to go check that out, especially because I do share a lot of other tips and resources and things like that as well, not just my own story, but that as well as other interviews from other people too. But today I am very happy to just say that I am truly living my dream multi-passionate life, and I love every second of it. And can I just say too that I still get told by so many people that I should still choose one thing. But because I didn't, and because I am really confident knowing who I am as a multi-passionate, knowing that I need that, I've done the work, the mindset work to really understand that for myself and help myself move forward and find tools and systems and different ways that I can manage everything and be successful. A huge piece of that was being able to define my version of success, which I talk about so much. If you're a client of mine, you definitely know that for yourself. Understanding how you specifically, especially as a multi-passionate, define success, because it is going to look so different than everyone else, because you do have multiple things that you want to do, or multiple goals, or the money that you want to make, or how you want to spend your time and energy, right? Like so many different things that are going to go into defining your version of success. I want you to really start there and encourage you to start there. What it looked like for me and what I'm doing now is I've built 3 profitable businesses. So I have my photography business, which was my first business. I have my coaching business, which is pretty much where you're at right now. I do actually have a virtual assistance kind of agency that I've had for 2.5 years now, but I hardly ever share about it because it's all been word of mouth and referrals, and it's been booked full for as long as I can remember. So I really don't talk about that one a lot, and it still exists, and I still have my hands in that on a weekly basis for sure. So those are my 3 main businesses. I also, especially this year, have picked up more singing gigs and am able to do just another passion of mine and also make some money doing it. And leaving my really unfulfilling cubicle day job at the time, being able to leave my day job and live the life that I wanted, be able to have that flexible schedule, run all 3 of and then some of my businesses, and really just live life on my own terms. So again, #watch me. This is what that's all about, is choosing how you define your own version of success and going after it and really paving your own path and saying, #watch me. Like, I am going to do this anyway, especially to the people who are telling you that you need to choose one thing, because you really don't have to. Okay, so let's get into these 5 key areas. I'm really excited to share these with you today, because this is all of the like nuts and bolts of this presentation. So this will change. There we go. Okay, so number 1, this is a fun one. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. Number 1 is personality. And there's so many things I could say. I could spend, I swear, this whole masterclass just talking about this. But the reason why I love this, especially for multi-passionates, is because there's 3 main tools that I tend to use with all of my clients, whether you're multi-passionate or not. Of course, it's always optional, but it's highly recommended by me. Is human design, the Enneagram, and Myers-Briggs. You've probably heard maybe at least one of these. I use all 3 typically in tandem because they all touch on different kind of aspects and things from your personality about how you best work, about what you find fulfilling, about how you connect with others, about what you need as far as like support or energetically, or like time off, or all of these different ways that we work, structure, flexibility, the tendencies that you might have, ways that you have been conditioned by other people, usually your parents or guardians or people that have, brought you up there's so many different areas that go into these 3 key tools. And by combining these, we're able to really dive into your unique design and personality to understand that and how we can use that information to really kind of, whether it's your schedule for your time and energy, or how you're running your business and what you're actually doing, or the time that you have available on your calendar, or how you're switching between tasks, or literally like all of these different ways in how you work, we can use this information to really personalize it to you so that you understand for yourself, how are you working on a weekly basis? What do you know you need in order to be fulfilled, or in order to feel energetically like alive and you're not just exhausted 24/7? All of these things really are in these personality tools. One of the things I will say is, especially if you have maybe heard of like the Enneagram, you may have heard that Enneagram number 7 is typically the multi-passionate personality for the Enneagram. Or with human design, you may have heard like the manifesting generator is typically the multi-passionate of the designs. And I really just want to break that concept because I have had different clients in all different personalities, different Enneagrams. I've had 2s, 4s, 3s, 7s, 8s. I've had even projectors, not that this is probably making sense to you, but like all different numbers of the Enneagram, all different personality types of the human design chart, even projectors, which is typically a design that doesn't have a lot of internal energy. That'll make more sense, like if we kind of go down that path, or if you listen to some of my other human design things. But you can be any personality type and still be multi-passionate. It's not just like because you're not an Enneagram 7 doesn't mean you're not multi-passionate. So I really want to break that if you've heard that before, and just give you so much permission that it doesn't matter which personality you are. There is no better personality one than the other. It just helps you understand yourself. And especially with human design specifically, understanding how you may have been conditioned by other people, like your parents. If they are a different personality and like energy type than you are, then they've probably taught you that maybe you need to work really hard and work really long hours. But if you're like a projector and you can't work long days because then you just exhaust yourself, that's not going to be good for you. You can understand that you've been conditioned that way and instead understand how you best work so that we can really work on the mindset piece of that and the like scheduling piece of that to develop a way that works best for you. So again, I could go down a rabbit hole with just this, but to kind of give you an idea, I wanted to share what some of my personalities are. So for human design, I'm a 2/4 sacral generator. I kind of put my chart kind of behind it just so you could kind of see an idea, especially if human design is new for you. There's a lot to human design and I can't explain everything now, but there's so many parts and pieces that we can use to help better understand you. And there's just so many things that go into it. But me being a generator, basically one of the biggest things for me is knowing that the way that I feel really energized and fulfilled by something is when I feel excited about what I'm doing, I can have energy all day long. So if I'm working on this masterclass, if I'm working on a photo shoot or whatever it is that I feel really excited about, one of my passions probably, then I literally can have all of the energy that I need to like work a 16-hour day or like a ridiculous amount of time. Time just flies by because that's how I'm really designed to work. If you're a projector, you don't have that usually. If you are excited by something, you might have like a 90-minute to 2-hour like maximum time, but then you can like wear yourself out way too much if you work, especially 16-hour days, let alone like even just an 8-hour day. So we all work differently. I have a lot of energy, but only when I am excited by something. If it's something that I feel like I have to do, but I don't want to, my energy drops. And I have to, understanding that, I know that I need to do something that does excite me, usually before that like task that I don't want to do, to give me the energy to be able to like dive in and do it, especially if it's something I have to do. So that's where some of that kind of comes in of like how you can understand yourself and really use that to help you work better and like get more done, be more productive. I like to say, especially be more profitable too, because you're not just kind of spending your time and energy doing all of the things. You know how you work, you know how you need to get things done so that you can be way more productive and have very intentional time so that you can be like work in a very profitable way, if that makes sense. The Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 3, so I'm the achiever. Again, there's kind of nuances to, if I'm stressed out, I tend to go toward like 9 personality. If I am feeling really supported and taken care of and safe, I tend to go toward a 6. Again, that kind of gets deeper into it, but basically being a 3, I understand that I really like to kind of achieve things. That could be like checking things off my to-do list every day. That could be achieving something bigger. It could be setting goals, whether that's monthly or annually or bigger goals than that. And anytime I hit that, like that's something that's really fulfilling for me as the achiever. Other types have some different kind of personality traits as well, but that's a big one for me. I really like Myers-Briggs just for kind of diving into some of the key pieces. I don't dive super deep into Myers-Briggs, but I really like to know, especially for either myself or my clients, are you more of an introvert or an extrovert? Are you more of a feeler or a thinker, right? And kind of having these two, so this is what, if you guys are new to the Myers-Briggs, I'm an INFP, so that's like the acronym that I am. But for each of these letters, there's kind of 2 choices. So what's really nice about when you do take this personality test is it doesn't just tell you like you're one or the other. It does, but it shows you the percentage. So I've had clients before, so like introvert, extrovert, so this first letter, I'm more of an introvert, which is why it shows in this acronym as an I. But on mine, I know that I can leverage some of my extrovert traits and like really push myself to be extroverted when I need to. So my percentage was like kind of closer in the middle. I was still more of an introvert, but I still like, it wasn't like, I've had clients before who was like a 92% introvert. So like, obviously she is going to be much, much more introverted and need to know that and understand that for herself, for how she's scheduling her week or what she needs in her day so that she's not overdoing it. Versus like if I'm, 52% introvert, I don't actually remember, but I'm making something up. I know I was very close. If I'm like 52% introvert and like 48% extrovert, I'm actually kind of right in the middle, but a little bit more introverted. So I can actually do both, but it's going to be very different than that 92% introvert who's going to be very much introverted. So that's how I really like to understand that and use those key pieces, especially in your daily and or weekly schedule for how you feel fulfilled, really managing your time and energy well, especially from an energetic standpoint, not just your time, so that you're not getting done at the end of the day and feeling exhausted and drained or burning yourself out, which is a huge one, especially for multi-passionates. So this kind of gives you a little bit of an inside look to like me and how I use these, but this is different for everyone. So I really love to dive into personality, especially for multi-passionates, because you can be any unique personality and you will be, and you can still be multi-passionate. It's just how you understand the pieces of it and really use that to your advantage. Okay. Time and energy. We've talked a little bit about this, but what I want to show you for this one. So when it comes to my time and energy, because as a multi-passionate, we pretty much have a limited resource of time, right? We have 24 hours in a day. We have 7 days a week. We have, 30 days, 31 days in a month, give or take, right? Like there is limited time. And of course, you actually do need to sleep. Highly encourage that. You do need to take time off, which I'm going to get to kind of in a different section here. But the point of this is that you have limited resources in your time and in your energy. So how do you best manage it? And I want to show you some tools. So let's see here. I am going to kind of pop out of this. I want to show you. Okay, before I show you this, I'm going to show you my Google Calendar because this is a huge tool that I use. before I do, just know that it's probably going to be overwhelming to your eye because this is how I best work. This is not how everyone best works. So I just want to say this, be cautious. This is my week. So you can see, I'm going to go to month just so you can see a little bit more, which gets a little crazy. I literally use my Google Calendar for everything. I always joke with like clients or my husband or anyone, like if it's not on my Google Calendar, it doesn't exist. It's not happening. And that's truly how I live, but it helps me. I know that having not only something on the calendar, but as you can see, like again, in the week setting, it's very much color coded, right? Very color coded. I have different, so just kind of explaining some of this. I have different things that I do every day. So I actually do have my morning routine in here. Something that I want to say about some of this, like having like my morning routine in here, or like getting ready, showering, doing my mindset work, checking email, right? Like those things I do on a daily basis, I have on my calendar. And because I know, so going back to personalities, because I know that I need more flexibility in my schedule, more so than structure. I need some structure, but I can't be too structured. So even though it looks like on my calendar that like 8 a.m. every single day, I do my morning routine, that's not true. Basically for me and how I use it is it's on here to remind me to do it and know that this is a non-negotiable for myself every day, but knowing for myself that I can do this pretty much at any time of the day, even though it says morning routine. If I have, so say on Thursday, as you can see, I actually have a photo shoot tomorrow, which is always my pink on my calendar. That's all my photography stuff. But since I have a photo shoot tomorrow and it's pretty early and I'll get up, get ready and kind of go straight to that, I probably will not do my morning routine until 2 o'clock or like whenever I get home. And that's usually how I kind of start my day at my computer, even if that's not first thing in the morning, right? So I know that for myself, that may not always reflect on my calendar, but that's kind of how I use this as a tool, knowing that I'm going to schedule something on my calendar that is a non-negotiable for myself, but knowing that I give myself flexibility, knowing that it doesn't have to be done right at 8 a.m. Or if I have something else going on, that I can do it later in the day. Same thing with my mindset routine. Sometimes I'll journal, sometimes I will meditate, sometimes I will just listen to a meditation. Maybe I'll go for a walk, like whatever I kind of feel into and need that day, I'll do. And sometimes that's first thing in the morning. Sometimes that's like not until like right before I go to bed. And that's okay. But again, it's a non-negotiable, something I do every day as best I can. I will say no one's perfect, right? But as best I can, I will do that every day, but it doesn't matter what time it is. And really a lot of these things are like, especially like a mindset check-in or a mindset routine for me. I know that that is more beneficial to get done when I feel like I need it most versus making sure I do it at 8 a.m. every day. But again, that helps from knowing my own personality and what I need, having that flexibility, making it a non-negotiable. So that's some of how I use my Google Calendar. I have, green is pretty much things that I do just like for myself or for my family. I have blue as things that I will do for like singing or music gigs, things like that. Red is always like calls, as you see our Multipassionate Masterclass in red, calls, client calls, coaching calls, things like that. This way it helps me keep track of what's happening, what I know what I can move and what has specific times. So like my photo shoot tomorrow is a specific time. I won't be moving that. But some of the other things that I do, especially on a daily basis, a lot of these things on Friday, I'll end up moving because I also have a photo shoot on Friday. So I'll move those around. And that helps me be able to see, especially as we get into kind of time off, having this white space too, to know when do I have time on my calendar to either fit things on my to-do list into that white space, or making sure that I'm taking time off for myself, right? Again, it's not about working 24/7. You definitely need to have that time off for you too. And sometimes I'll be very honest, where was it? I scheduled this in my calendar and sometimes I have to do that. So making sure I take the day off some days, or that I take the evening off some days, right? And like actually scheduling that in my calendar so I see that and hold to it, which is also very difficult sometimes. this is how I use my Google Calendar. This is one of the tools I use. So I wanted to kind of show you some of the ins and outs of that. Another tool that I love is Trello. Where did this go? If you guys have never seen Trello before, Trello, oh my gosh, where are the other ones? There's so many different ones, like project management tools, basically. There's so many different ones. I really like Trello, especially just from a visual standpoint. I have boards. I'm going to show you kind of a couple boards to give you an idea of what this is, but this is how I kind of manage a lot of what's going on or my different businesses. Or for example, I'm going to show you like how I've kind of laid out my podcast one, but a lot of the things that I do or create or are working on for different businesses, I have set up in Trello. So that way I can keep track of it. I actually have, so I'm going to show you two of these. This one, so this one's for my podcast, right? Like I know that I can go into this board for my podcast and all of the information is here. So everything like about the podcast in general, all of my marketing info, the graphics, the descriptions, the intro, outro, different links and resources. When I launched it, I had more stuff in here. And then I have all of my episodes, right? So when I come in here, I will just dump all my ideas or info in here. I'll record it. And then again, like I'll create the graphic and description, the links, everything will go in here. So basically it's all in one place. I really like that because then I have one place to go to, right? Show you kind of another board here. I actually have, this is really helpful, especially from a business standpoint. I have a lot of like content, posts, different things like my masterminds or different programs that I have that I'm working on, right? All of this information is in here. So again, it's like a one-stop shop where I can add things. You can see this is exactly where I put together this masterclass today and where I store it. It's really handy to just have different boards, one place, one location to go to with like everything for the most part that I need. A couple people joining late, so let's see if they can get in. Hi Eve, thanks for joining. Okay, so Trello is a great one. Highly recommend that. I'm going to link some of these resources in the replay email, so feel like you don't have to take a ton of notes or write it all down. I'll have some of those links too. Trello is a big one. The last one I wanted to show you, which I'm going to show this one very briefly. Let me stop sharing for a second and reshare this one. So this is basically my client management system. 17 Hats is one of the main tools that I use, and this has a lot of sensitive information in it, so I'm not going to show you all the ins and outs of it, but basically this is where I keep all of my client information, all of my like invoices, coaching contracts, different agreements, questionnaires, welcome information, payment information, contact information, projects, calendar, booking, all of that stuff is in this system. One of the things I love about it as a multi-passionate that I'll show you is you can actually run multiple businesses out of this, which is why I went with this tool. So I have my, the one that we're in right now is like my coaching business. I have another one for my photography business. So it's like the same system, but a different kind of profile, if you will, where it has all of that other information. I also kind of have some of my husband's stuff as well, but you can run multiple businesses out of this one system. I am in this all of the time. I love the system to death. Highly recommend it. Again, I will put this in the replay email so you have the links, and please feel free to ask questions if you have any. But this is a huge tool that I use that has saved me so much time, because I used to, especially when I was first getting started, even just in my photography business, I had my Excel spreadsheet to keep track of like bookkeeping. I had a separate contracts. It was called HelloSign at the time that I would do my contracts out of so that they would e-sign. I would send invoices out of PayPal. I would, what else did I have? Just kind of contact information. It was usually like in my phone or like on a piece of paper. Everything was in a different place. It had saved me so much time to get everything into one system. Sure, it always takes a little bit of time to get it set up, but then it is so quick after that, and you can build templates and everything. So this is a huge tool that I use and has saved me so much time. Let me go back. So many tools. Okay, so share this again. Okay. Okay, so that's a big one for time and energy. The other, so tools, systems, just understanding like what it is that you need to keep track of, or where you're spending a lot of your time, and how can you like get it all into one, how can you organize it? How can you create systems? And how can you understand what you need? Sometimes that's finding a system, to kind of bring everything in one system instead of going 5 different places. Needs might also look like, making space in your calendar, like I showed you, or using some type of tool like that, or just knowing what you need for yourself. This might also look like hiring a VA, maybe hiring an assistant or getting some help. Maybe that's even just asking like your family members to help around the house or with other chores, right? Some of the other things that are on your list. Understanding what you need, where you can ask for help, support, systems, tools to help manage your time and energy. So that's a big one. Okay, number 3, fun one to talk about, business and marketing. I'm going to talk a little bit about niching down, your ideal client, and your strategy, right? These are the 3 big things. I'm not going to go super in depth. Again, this could be something I could do like a whole training on, but basically from a multi-passionate standpoint, one of the biggest questions I always get is, how do I market all of my businesses successfully without confusing my audience? This is huge, and totally get this. Having 3 very different businesses and being able to market them, but in different ways, so that it's not just, one of the things I get all of the time is, do I need to have a social media profile on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, or like all of these different things? Do I have to have that? Excuse me. Do I have to have that for every single business? That just gets to be a lot, right? And my answer to that is always, I don't know. Like, let's find out, basically. But the reason why I say that is usually the answer is no, right? But the reason for that, let me show you with this example. So if we go to this next slide, basically, I'm going to give you an example with my photography business, and then I'm going to kind of answer that question a little bit more in detail. So there's 3 things, like when you are diving into your business and understanding how you need to market it. Let me just say, first of all, marketing is going to continue to change. It always does, every minute of every day. So of course, there's never going to be just like one right way to market. Marketing is a game. Marketing is something that you try and change, especially as technology and different social medias or different platforms and things change as well. It used to be, there was TV commercials, radio commercials, different kind of more traditional marketing sources. Now we have things like social media. Now we have other digital marketing and things like that. Websites are definitely more so a need nowadays than they were 20 years ago, right? So there's so many different ways to do marketing, but the thing that you want to do is take your business, take your passion, whatever you kind of have to market, and you want to understand first and foremost your ideal client. This can be difficult. I will say that if you are first getting started with this is going to take some time, because you're going to have to try, just like in my photography business, when I started, I shot anything and everything I could, right? I did family, senior, weddings. I did some, cosplay. I did different band and concert shoots. Like, I literally did anything and everything I could. That, like, I had no ideal client. I had no niche at the time, but that did help me get started, because I learned very quickly what I liked and what I didn't like. I knew, and I learned pretty quickly that I really didn't like maternity and newborn photos. So I don't do those anymore. But I wouldn't have known that had I not done it. So a lot of the times, especially when people, other coaches, trainers, mentors are telling you to choose one thing, they're telling you this idea of niche down, right? Start your business and niche down right away. And I highly disagree with that, especially if you're multi-passionate, because typically what I see is by choosing a niche too fast, you actually pigeonhole yourself and you get into it. And then you probably decide that you don't even like what you're doing. I've seen this happen so many times. And then you either like back out of that and kind of start with a different idea, or you just jump. And this is kind of where it comes into like you jump from one idea to the next, because then you get into it and you end up not liking it. Or you make my mistake of my second business. When I started my coaching business, I thought I needed to, again, choose one thing, like niche down way too quickly. I spent lots of time, money, and energy on, niching down, on building a website, on getting all of my content, all of the stuff ready, to realize that that idea was something I didn't actually want to do. So then I had to spend more time, energy, and money getting that all changed to a different idea before I actually dove in and started coaching, which highly recommend you don't do. So if you are getting kind of pigeonholed, or you think you need to niche down, or you think you need to have everything figured out before you actually get started and doing the thing that you want to do, dive in, dip your toe in. I know that's kind of a big no-no a lot of times, but that's actually what I encourage you to do, is actually dive in, get a feel for it. Dip your toe in, see how's the water feel? What do you like about it? What do you not like? You are going to learn so much more from that, and actually trying everything out first to understand what you like and what you don't like, so that you can niche down and save a lot of time, energy, and money, than if you just do that to start with. So I want to kind of give you that disclaimer of like, that's where you should start. But ideally, what you want to do is you do want to figure out, what do you like doing? What is kind of that niche that you want to get into? Who is that very specific ideal client for what you're doing or what you're offering, whether it's a product or service or kind of a combination? And then you want to figure out a very specific strategy specifically for that. So I wanted to share my example from my photography business currently that I do. The niche that I basically have is, I still shoot a lot of different things. So can I just say, like, not saying that you can only do this thing either, but this is who I market to. So I do event and marketing photography specifically for event professionals and performers. So this is like event planners, designers, different people who work events or put on the show, if you will, like different performing acts, circus performers, acrobats, singers, dancers. That's who I specialize in, which makes it really easy then to find a strategy that works. So I know that I'm talking to businesses, specifically in the events industry. So I've joined things like business networking groups, or having other networking groups or events for event professionals. I know that I use Facebook and Instagram to kind of help target those, especially with like some different hashtags or different other profiles that I follow, to kind of help with that social piece. And then referrals and word of mouth. I have a specific like referral program and thing that I've built into my business. And I also like ask for referrals on a regular basis and like follow up. And word of mouth has always been my biggest strategy for photography, which has been amazing because word of mouth is free, right? Which is always great. But that's how, when you can understand your ideal client and your niche, that's where you then figure out your strategy. So instead of thinking like, I need all of these, coming back to that question, I need all of these different social profiles for every single business I do. No, you don't. I know that a lot of my businesses probably aren't, maybe some of them are on LinkedIn, but they're probably not hanging out there. They're probably more so on Facebook or Instagram, where they can show their performances or they can post about different events that they have, versus really targeting other businesses through LinkedIn. So I don't really worry about LinkedIn. I've also never been on TikTok or Snapchat or some of those other ones, right? Like, but you don't have to have all of the different social media profiles or different places that your business would be if it doesn't make sense for who you are targeting. And this is super helpful, because then I know my strategy for photography, and then my strategy for coaching is very, very different from that. And then, like I kind of shared at the beginning, my strategy for like my VA and my small VA agency, I've never actually really marketed that. It's all been referrals and word of mouth, and it's been full. So I haven't really needed to market it. So I do not have any social media profiles. I actually don't even have a website. I have a PDF, or I guess it's a Google Doc, basically, of information that I send out. and like my booking calendar. That's literally all I have for that business because that's what works. So you don't have to have all of the different social profiles for every single thing that you do, because that's just going to wear you out and really just not going to be worth your time and energy. So I could go down a rabbit hole with this one too and just tell you so many things, but that's kind of where to start and how you can market a few different businesses without confusing your audience or without just kind of blasting like, these are all of the things I do all the time everywhere, right? Okay, lots more. Okay, number 4, self-care and time off. This one I kind of started to talk about with managing your time and energy and showing you that in my calendar. Basically, I want to talk about this idea of energetic management, because depending on how you work, or again, going back to your personality, like your design type, and knowing, do you have a lot of internal energy? Do you have energy when you're excited about something like I do as a generator? Are you more of a projector who needs a lot more downtime and time off? Otherwise, you're going to burn yourself out really, really fast. Believe me when I say I have been through actual burnout a few different times, and it is not fun. So that is the thing that you want to avoid, is burnout, just feeling exhausted. You know, anytime that you are not showing up as your best, you're not going to feel good about what you're doing. Therefore, your results are going to suffer. Your success is therefore going to suffer. Like, everything comes with that. So self-care and time off as a multi-passionate is actually one of the things that I have really learned and come to believe is, by taking more time off and taking care of myself and making that my priority, that has actually made me more successful in kind of 2 aspects. It's made me more successful because I am happier and I feel more taken care of, and, you know, I actually have energy and I'm not just feeling burnt out or exhausted all the time. Like, I actually feel better. And it's made me more successful because when I actually take time off and prioritize myself, I end up showing up better in my business, which results in more money, right? So this is, I say all of these are like very important, but I'm like, this is like the thing that I use the most. Like I said, like, I prioritize myself and my energy above everything else. Like, if I have, even though I hate rescheduling client calls, I hate that. I try not to do that as much as possible, but I know that if I like have a migraine, or if I am really not feeling it that day, or something's going on with me personally and I need to take care of myself, I would much rather do that, prioritize myself and my own needs to be able to show up better for my client. I'm not going to show up to a coaching call and feeling terrible and not being able to actually coach them and give them what they want. I'm not going to be able to show up at my best. So not only are my results going to suffer, but theirs are too. And that's not fair to them. So whether it's a photo shoot, a coaching call, pretty much anything else I'm doing, I know I definitely can't show up and sing if I'm not feeling good. So I need to be taken care of first. And that's been a really huge mindset change for me, because typically, especially, I'll say, like, especially us women, we learn that we should put others before ourselves, right? We learn that we need to take care of other people, that that's kind of like the good thing, or the best, the expected thing to do, especially if you're a mom or a parent. This can be difficult to get into. And believe me when I say it took me some time to really change this perspective and understand this for myself, and actually give myself permission to do this, because it does kind of feel selfish sometimes, or it does feel like you do feel guilty if you're having to like reschedule something or say no to something, right? All of this has been a lot of work on my part, for sure. I did an entire year of like self-care, where I learned how to say no, where I learned how to set boundaries for myself, where I learned how to like really take time off and understand like what I needed. So some of the things that I wanted to share, especially from my own, like, I've learned to really understand myself at this deeper level. When I talk about self-care, I always talk about this idea of deep self-care, where it's like what you actually need to help yourself feel taken care of and fulfilled and supported, instead of just like, don't get me wrong, going and like taking a bubble bath or having a glass of wine or go getting a massage. Like, highly recommend those things too. But if it's not actually giving you the thing that you need, which is usually like feeling deeply cared for, supported, actually taking time off, feeling rejuvenated, re-energized, whatever, you know what I mean, then it's not the self-care that you should be doing, right? So you really do have to understand that for yourself personally. What are some of your go-tos, or this idea of like a self-care toolbox for yourself? If you have a headache, what is your go-to? When I have a headache, I know that I need to take 5 to 15 minutes to like go lay down, maybe do a meditation. Maybe it's to go for a walk if I feel like I need fresh air and just to clear my head. But I know that for myself now, and I know some of those go-tos, right? So it's really understanding that for you personally, because it can look very different. It may be going and like hitting a punching bag for a few hours, right? Or even a few minutes or something, or screaming into a pillow, or going to paint, or running around the block. I know I seek running a lot because that's a good like energetic one for me that helps get a lot of especially negative energy out for me. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but you do have to really understand that at your personal level, and then make sure that you are not only making time for it, but especially when it comes up, and you can recognize like, when do you need it the most? Is it when you're sitting at your computer and you feel frustrated and you're starting to get like a tension headache? That's the time that you need it. It's not necessarily the time that you've scheduled on your calendar. It's the time that you feel that you need it most. And how can you give that to yourself in that moment, which can be very difficult to do, especially if you have deadlines or things that you need to get done, or you're used to pushing yourself like I am, like I was. That's something that you work on, right, to get to that point. Okay, I know we're pushing an hour here, so bear with me. Okay, number 5, let's get into the money side of it. I really want to talk about, so first of all, being multi-passionate. One of the things that I love most about being multi-passionate, and one of the biggest advantages that you have, is being able to leverage multiple income streams. This is huge. I always think it's funny to talk to clients about, their idea of leaving their quote unquote safe day job, because a day job can feel safe. It's really consistent. Maybe you get paid, the same amount every 2 weeks or whatever that looks like. And it can feel really safe and consistent. And you might also like get let go a month later or something and like not know it. That's definitely happened to me before. And then all of a sudden, like you're out of that, right? But we have this idea of safety, typically around consistency and our goals that we set for ourselves. And I really want to address a few of these things as we're talking about money and like diving into it, which is why I wanted to show you some of these things. So if I go to the next slide here, I wanted to show you kind of these pie charts of basically like a good look into how leveraging multiple income streams, and like my income specifically, has changed over time. We all know that like in 2020, COVID happened. So there was a huge change, which you really do see in these charts, right? So 2019, that was when, photography was a huge piece of what I was doing. I was really just getting my coaching business really off the ground, really going at the time. So while I was working on that, I was doing a lot of photo shoots and making a lot of my income that way. 2020, however, was supposed to be kind of more half and half. However, then COVID happened, right? So I actually didn't do any photo shoots for 2 or 3 months. I actually kind of shut down my business for a little while because nothing was happening and we couldn't see people, right? So that took a huge toll on my photography business, and not being able to book shoots or see people. And then especially being in the events industry, right? That was non-existent for almost all of 2020. So that was difficult. However, because this was a huge thing, being multi-passionate for me, because I was multi-passionate and I had multiple income streams, that actually helped me, because even though my photography business really took a hit that year, I was able to leverage coaching and my VA business to kind of ramp those up and focus on those more while I wasn't focusing on photography, so that I still actually made way more money than I did in 2019 in 2020, even though we had like, that huge change, especially with my photography business, and that was highly impacted. Now in 2021, mind you, this is only this first half of the year, right? Because it's July, but now you can see like things are starting to kind of even back out a little bit. Photography has really like come back full force now that events and different things that I do are starting to really come back. I've been really busy on the photography end, especially this kind of spring and summer, which has been great. So a lot of the times, and what you'll see here is that your income streams are not going to look balanced. They're not going to look leveled. And I think this is a huge kind of misconception, especially when it comes to our time and energy around how we manage everything, is not every business needs to be balanced, right? You are going to have different times of the year. You're going to have different years based on different circumstances that are going to look different. And you're going to be spending more time in one area than the other. And then those might switch, right? And that's okay. That's part of it. I see this a lot too. You can't really tell from this one, but I see this even just on kind of an annual basis where it's like December through February is like dead usually for photography. Like those are my slow months, but I know that that's been true every year since I started for the most part. So since I know that, I actually really leverage that and know that I can ramp up on coaching or other things that I'm doing, or I can take a month off and travel because I've planned for that, right? I've planned for where I'm spending my time and energy based on how I know my market, my ideal client, things that are happening, circumstances that change that you don't always know. But that's how you can kind of leverage the different things that you're doing, and they're not going to look even. They're not going to be balanced. You don't have to spend, 100% of your time and energy on every single thing because you can't, but they are going to change and fluctuate, which on the other slide here, also want to show you. So getting into like goal setting and fluctuation, I wanted to show you kind of more of a line graph. So this is just this year. You can see one of the lines is photography, one is coaching, and the other one's just kind of miscellaneous. It's some of the other things that I do just to make it a little bit more simple. But one of the biggest things I wanted to show you here is that when you're setting income goals, a lot of the times, and I talk about this quite a bit, we hear so much about like hitting the 5K months, 10K months, having consistent income. And honestly, like for you as a multi-passionate, this is going to be very different. And this is something I really needed to learn personally, and which is why I'm really excited to share it with you, because this is typical for, first of all, any business owner. It is not, your income is not just going to be like a gradually upscaling every single month. Like that's not how business works. In general, you are going to have, especially with like last year, your different months in business are going to have ebbs and flows, right? You're going to have dips. You're going to have months that you did really well and other months that like were really struggling for some reason, right? You're going to have those ebbs and flows, which is exactly what you see here as well. Over time, whether that's just in the 6-month period or over the course of many years, you're going to have this. So when you hear this idea of consistent income, know that that's never like a consistent, like truly consistent line. That doesn't exist in business. I mean, if that's what yours looks like, more power to you, but more than likely it doesn't. You are going to have these ebbs and flows. So what I want you to play with is this idea of consistency for yourself. For me, what consistency has looked like is knowing that with the different multiple income streams that I have, being around a certain amount each month, or kind of having like this minimum basis goal. So for a while, it was like hitting 3,000 a month was my base goal, right? Now it's like hitting 5,000 plus a month is my base goal, which is great. And like anything above that is great. If I kind of dip below that, I know like I either need to ramp something up, push a little bit more, or sometimes you're going to have those ebbs and flows, and that's okay, right? That's more of what consistency looks like for me. Knowing that you're going to have those ebbs and flows, you're going to have great months, you're going to have not so great months. But if you can kind of stay around either where your budget is or where your ideal goal is, but kind of working your way up, that's more of what your consistency should kind of look like. And then when it comes to like goals of hitting like your 5K or 10K months or things like that, also knowing that you have, again, multiple income streams that you can leverage to do that, versus it all coming from one source, which can be great. However, then if you do have those ebbs and flows in that one, one business or whatever it is, I always relate back to my day job. Like if you have, a big, for whatever reason, maybe you work on commission or something. If you have a big month in like a day job, but then the next month something happens and you get let go, all of that's gone, right? So this is a good way where you get to be able to leverage different sources and different times of the year and really know like you have control of promoting and marketing, or putting out new promotions or new offers or whatever when you like want to hit those goals, or knowing that all of these work together so that if you do have 2020 hits and the photography business really goes down or shuts down for a few months, you're going to be okay, right? So a few different things I wanted to show you as far as money goes. I hope that that makes sense. Again, just like seeing how different and how much like percentages of your different income streams are going to affect your income, and also how they're going to change over time, knowing that that's okay. This is more of what consistency looks like for me versus just hitting like those 5K, 10K consistent income months, which you typically hear about. It looks very different for us as multi-passionates. Okay, so those are the 5 areas. So again, personality, time and energy, business and marketing, self-care, time off, and money and income streams, which I love to talk about. These are really the tools and the areas that I use to be able to do everything that I do and manage it well. Self-care, time off is a huge, huge one, because really just feeling into what you need in the moment in order to do all of the other things, basically. That's probably the biggest one that I could touch on. The number one thing that most coaches aren't telling you is that you can be multi-passionate and successful. I'm doing it. I've had multiple clients, whether they've left their day job to focus on their business, or have started multiple businesses, or even have shifted in and around different jobs, different businesses, tried out different things, especially if you're just getting started in business. It's okay to try different things on, but you have to define what success looks like for you, and knowing that you can be successful and be multi-passionate, but you have to really accept that from yourself first, right? So just knowing that it's possible, I just kind of want to plant that seed. One of the things that I want to share with you, as I've talked about with all of these different areas and really bringing together more multi-passionate people into a community together instead of being so dispersed, feeling like you're doing it alone, feeling like you're kind of the odd one out. One of the things that I want to introduce is I am going to be starting to run a multi-passionate mastermind. This is going to be a 4-month mastermind that we are going to touch on all of these key areas so much more in depth through different training modules, different mastermind calls, really getting those mastermind, that time to mastermind with the group to hear, what is everyone else doing? How are they managing different things? What all are they doing? What feedback or ideas do they have? How can you guys collaborate or support each other, hold each other accountable? Plus, of course, getting one-on laser coaching from me as well during the mastermind calls, and some other things as well. So to really thrive as a multi-passionate. So one of the things I want to show you here, I can jump over here. Okay. So a few of the things, just so you kind of have an idea of what this looks like and what's included. One of the things I really wanted to do with this mastermind specifically is this isn't so much of, all of the nitty gritty on like how to start a business, or really getting into that, where I talk about that more in my hashtag Wash Me Mastermind program that's 6 months long. That's really like how to start a business. What I really wanted to do with this one is bring multi-passionates together, like I mentioned, for support, community, and coaching, to have that space to be able to really own their power and thrive as a multi-passionate. One of the things I wished I would have had when I was really starting to have that idea of like hashtag watch me, I'm going to do this, I'm going to pave my own path, but instead not having to do it alone, and to bring more multi-passionates together who are doing this and really creating this for themselves, because it is going to look different for each and every person. So we are going to be going through more on time and energy, business and marketing, self-care, time off, all of these different areas, planning your own money and income streams, what that looks like, setting your own goals, and basically everything that's included. I always do welcome questionnaires to get to know all of my clients, where they're at, what they're doing, especially what their multi-passions are. There's going to be 2 calls a month for the 4 months. So 8 mastermind calls. There will be recordings. Of course, would encourage you to come live if you can. Typically, how I'll do this, depending on the group, is I will probably set one, like since there's 2 a month, have one be in like the morning time and one be in the evening time to kind of accommodate. But I always dive into that in the welcome questionnaire, depending who's in it, what times work best for people. So that'll kind of determine what the times are for those. There will be a group Voxer chat, which is such a great space to be able to come in, share different things, get feedback, get accountability with the other members, as well as me being in there as a coach and asking you questions or pushing you on different things. You have access to that the entire time. So aside from the calls, that's where you can go in and really get the support that you need, share anything that's coming up. If somebody else has told you to choose one thing, you can come in and talk about it, like really whatever you want to share. That is that group support that you'll have the whole time. And that's really like unlimited. I always tell this for my clients, like if you have a thought 2 o'clock in the morning, you are more than happy to come on and share it. I have specific times that I'll go in there to respond and kind of catch up with different things. And I don't get notifications for that reason, but that's why I love that as a resource, being Voxer, because you can use it literally anytime you need to get the coaching and support that you need. While other people still have like their own boundaries of when they go in and check it or kind of catch up with other people in the group. So that's going to be a huge piece of it. There will be, so those kind of 4 different areas, there are 5, but I'm going to kind of touch on this. We're going to be covering 4 specifically in modules. The personality one is actually going to be a bonus that I'm adding. So because personality is such an individualized piece to it, I'm not going to necessarily be doing a training module on that. Instead, this is going to be a bonus that you get your own personalized personality blueprint with either all 3 of the tools or any of the ones that you're interested in. Of course, this is always optional if you're not interested, but highly recommended. You'll get your own individual blueprint that shows, you have to, of course, like we'll get all the information for the quizzes and the human design chart and things that go into putting this together. But then it's going to be me taking all of this, putting it together, and pretty much giving you your own like blueprint for how you are probably going to best work as a multi-passionate based on your personality types and tools. So that's going to be something that's personalized to you, which I'm really excited to do for each and every person in this. So that's going to be kind of its own thing in addition to the other 4 areas that are going to be their own training modules that we'll talk about each of the months. I am going to run an early bird. So this opens today with this masterclass. The early bird bonus is if you get in today through I think it's the 15th, 16th of August. It's one of the 2. I'm actually going to be opening up the group Voxer chat 2 weeks early just for additional support. So you actually get this accountability group support coaching before we even start the mastermind program itself. And then you're actually going to get one private coaching call with me so that you can have your own personal time to ask questions or, talk about your multi-passions or anything that you need coaching around. We can dive into that for you personally. So those are going to be early bird through I think it's August 15th. So you've got some time, but if you sign up before then, you'll definitely get both of these bonuses added to it for no extra cost. One of the things I wanted to do for this mastermind specifically was make it really reasonable, if you will, because this is something I want to just have more of us multi-passionates be successful. This has been my goal. This is a lot of the things I talk about, especially in my posts. I want there to be more multi-passionate souls thriving instead of being trying to put in a box or told that they need to choose one thing. There's enough people that do that. I want you to be able to really leverage your own uniqueness and all of your multi-passions, everything that makes you truly fulfilled, and be able to go and do it. That's always my goal, is to help you create, life on your terms, or the life that you really want to have. And that includes whether you want to start businesses, start multiple businesses, do passions on the side, be able to volunteer, have a family, like really whatever that looks like for you. Again, your own version of success. That's what I want for you. So part of this mastermind, I wanted to make it pretty reasonable. So pay in full, it's just under $2,000. I do have a payment plan that you can do for the 4 months as well, if that's easier. But that is all of the information. If you go to like the sign up button, it's also going to go into, I'll show you just so you're aware, my course platform that I use. So you'll kind of see this other kind of brief summary page, if you will, all the same information, where you'll go and you can either choose the payment plan option or the pay in full, and you can pay directly in there. And then this will get you access to where the modules will be. We're going to have the modules in here. There is kind of some community, excuse me, sorry. There is going to be some of the community piece, or like you can ask questions, have discussions in the course platform as well. Depending on the group, I always go back and forth and talk to each group or each, especially mastermind group that I do this with, whether we use like a Facebook group for kind of a shared other space, if we just use this area, or I've used other things like Slack before too. It wasn't my favorite, but it was something that the whole group wanted to really try and use. So always open to that, but usually we'll have some type of space where you can always go into, besides just Voxer, where you can share kind of your own documents or your website links, things for other people to look over, again, to get more feedback, support, ideas, things like that. So we'll always have a shared space as well. But that's what I have for you. So that's going to be launching today. We are officially going to be starting the group Voxer chat will open early August 16th. The program, the 4 months, will actually start August 30th. It's a Monday. It's basically like we're starting in September, but August 30th was the Monday. So I figured we'd start on the Monday, and then you'll have kind of a couple extra days, and it'll go through the rest of this year. So you'll have plenty of time. You'll have those calls. We'll get those scheduled as we get the group, and I kind of know what works best for everyone. I always like to be accommodating as possible with everyone who is actually in the group. And then, yeah, we get going basically in September, August 30th, and go through the rest of the year. So let me know if you have any questions on that. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. I'd love, if there's any other questions I can answer about any of the tools or things that we talked about today, about the mastermind in general, or anything that's coming up for you, let me know. If you don't have questions, that's okay. If you do have questions later, or you're watching the replay, feel free to just reply to the email with your questions. I'm happy to answer any and all of those as well. Sue, do you have any questions?
Not really. I was fascinated by the little pie charts and stuff, though. That's something I haven't done.
So interesting. I was so excited to do that because I knew I wanted to like show just, I have it, of course, in all of my like Excel spreadsheets where I track things, but to really like visually see that, I knew that was like the first thing I knew I wanted to do for this masterclass. So I'm glad that you liked that. I'm glad that was
no,
so cool.
I liked both of those things. Those were very interesting because I've never done that. It's always been my 2 or 3 things that I do are always very casual.
Sure. Sure. It's definitely interesting to see kind of those things over time too. Like I would encourage you to maybe play with that one day, just to see like how things do fluctuate. I think there's just a common thinking, or people like talk about that idea of consistency, or they don't talk enough about fluctuation, where those things absolutely exist and are normal, especially in the business world. And that's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It's just how things are, but it's definitely not talked about enough.
Right. Well, I know in my 2 different things, I have a season for my videos, which is spring and early summer. And then I also have, retail season for radio advertising. So that's September through the end of the year. And then, dead months, just like you, like January, February. Although this year I didn't, because I had BNI and I offered like rock bottom prices just to get people.
That's perfect. But then to do that, right?
Yeah.
When you can do that, when it's like worth it,
right,
to do that.
Yeah. So yeah, I understand the the ups and downs and the roller coaster for sure. Because there are definitely seasons, like my craft, when I do craft shows, I have a website now that I'm working on.
Yeah,
But
you do.
and that's what I'm saying. Like I'm excited, and yet I got overwhelmed last weekend.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's so much to do. I have to take pictures. I have to think creatively. I have to. I just walked away.
Good. Yes. It's going to happen. Right.
Yeah,
Like, again, the goal is not to avoid that. The goal is just
right.
like how you walked away. Like, you know, when kind of what those triggers are for what you need to do. Like, how can you alleviate that, but not avoid it, because it will come up.
Right. And I did that because I thought, no, there's no rush. You've already done the brave thing, which was start your website without it being perfect.
Ah, yes, I love it. Ah,
So, that's the big thing. So I go on like once a day and tweak something, or I find my pictures, I find my stuff that I want to take pictures of, and take them outside and see if I can get some decent pictures.
definitely.
And I always remember from my previous training from a business coach last fall that I need to make everything fun, not think of anything as a chore.
Oh, that's always the the hard
Yeah.
part sometimes. But so good. I love that.
So I'm trying not to be overwhelmed, with the website thing. I'm just going to take it a piece at a time, like eat an elephant.
Exactly.
So
I love that analogy.
there, what's the big deal? And maybe by accident somebody will stumble upon my site and buy something, while I'm tweaking.
There you
So
go.
it's up there.
How great would that
And
be?
yeah, I love that.
Right?
Accidental sales, they're the best.
I love that. Oh, it's
But
so true.
yeah, we need to get a little bit more business-like with the amounts of money, and it'd be nice to just see those pie charts, especially this year, because it's been a pretty good year. And
Good.
last year was
Great.
too. The end of last year was awesome because you got me dialed in on a bunch of stuff. So that was really great. And I had a gal who came on. She was an interview with me on Monday, and she's a business coach. She does strategy. Her last name is Profit, which seems very
Is it really? Like for real,
Yeah.
for real?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 2 F's, not just one. But
Okay.
she and I got to talking, and I traded out her interview audio for a little bit of help with some stuff. She's like, "Oh, I've got so many good ideas for you. I need to help you with this." And I mean, she had all these great ideas. So I'm going to take advantage of that when I get back from vacation.
There you go. Oh, that's perfect.
People offer free coaching. I'm taking it.
Absolutely. I received that.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
But
While you were talking about the just the seasons in business, just one more thing I just kind of wanted to touch on too is this idea of like being booked full or like hitting X number of clients each month. I knew this came up for me in photography specifically, where it's like I wanted 5 photography shoots each month. And again, like that consistency piece is like, sure, that might be the goal, that's fine. But knowing that like some months I'm going to have like 12, some I'm going to have 0, especially like what we were talking about with seasons.
yeah.
December, I might not have any. September, I might have 48. Like, I don't know, like it may be, but that's how you get to learn those and understand that like it's okay with those ebbs and flows, because you're going to have that. It doesn't have to just like, you don't have to get that consistency of like 5 every single month and that's all you can have.
Right.
Just wanted to kind of add that because I know that comes up, especially in photography. That's so something I hear all the time. But
yeah, and I can see that because especially with photography, a lot of kids are October or November is their deadline for seniors.
yeah,
So yeah, you're going to be busy.
definitely, especially if you specialize in seniors, like that might be your busy time, and maybe you don't work the rest of the year. Maybe you work on your day job or like something else that you do the rest of the year. I've seen that for photographers who do like school pictures, so like kiddos and things like that, where it's like they do them whatever they do them at the start of the year,
Right.
that is. But then like that's all they do the entire year. So
Right.
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's It's fun, and it's nice to have permission to be a multi-passionate, because people do. Why can't you just pick something? Why are you just all over the place? Because I'm me, that's why.
Exactly. Some people just need to focus on one thing, and that is 100% fine.
Yeah.
But you don't have to.
And chances are I won't anyway. And I'm really
Exactly.
curious about the human design part. I think that's going to be really neat.
Yes. Did I go over that with you? I don't think we.
No, but I
told your
saw
chart.
it. I saw it in your podcast, so I want to go back. I've been going back and forth. I did, I listened to those audio books. So I did Byron Katie's "Loving What Is,"
Cool.
which boy, that'll give you a lot to think about. Holy cow! So that, yeah, Byron Katie, "Loving What Is."
Okay.
And she has a website called thework.com. As if you're listening, she gives you examples of what she's doing, and there's 4 questions that you need to ask once you start questioning your truths, or what you've been told, or what you believe. And
I love that.
it's fascinating. Well, I think I told you about that first one. Did I tell you about that?
I think so. I feel like some of this is like ringing a bell. So
yeah, I think I did, because I nearly drove off the road. It was one of those.
That's right. Yeah. I love that.
And then the other ones touched on, a bunch of other different things as well. So that was fascinating. But anyway, so I was listening to that, and then I went back to Jensen Chero, because now I have to wait until the 9th to get my new credit
Sure.
for the next book, and then ask the universe what it's supposed to be. So, and then the Science of Getting Rich, and now I'm on Jensen Chero's "You're a Badass at Making Money Again."
I love it.
I thought that was very funny to find $100 bill on Monday morning.
Right? So good. Yeah. So if you're still watching right now on the replay, pick up all of those books and just see what happens. So good.
Yeah. So anyway, that was very interesting. So I'm interested in the personality stuff. I'm curious to see
I could geek
what
out
that's all about.
Love it.